Hello again, welcome back to Asgard, and welcome back to Enigmatica to Expert. So today, we are going to begin a fairly large project. I was debating on between starting into this, which is going to be our ore processing system, or starting into AE2, both of which are going to be pretty large projects that we're going to be working on kind of between, our last world upload and the next world upload. Those are two of the big projects I'd like to get kind of nailed down a bit. And I decided we're going to start with the ore processing system because it's just going to help. It's going to help with doing kind of moving forward into AE2 and stuff, just having tons of materials. And before we can actually start on the ore processing area and mine and all that, I think the very first thing that we should do is set up our brine production, kind of a multi-purpose building that handles basically just our mechanism fluids. We're going to have a specific building for that, instead of just trying to cram it all into one, specific building for everything. And so what we're going to do, I didn't have a whole lot of steel, so I've got some steel over here being created just in the alloy furnace, just doing it the cheap way. Once we get our ore processing system in place, we will be setting up some big, proper, kind of automatic steel production. But at the moment, let me just get actually a bit of coal, because as we go on, we're going to need a bit of steel, like a lot of steel. And also let me get just a bit of this copper as well. And let's get the copper running. And kind of get that started processing, because I am going to need a bit of copper. I need to drop in with that. Probably not that much. I've actually got a lot of copper. Probably don't even need what I grabbed there, but that's fine. I'm going to get a bunch of that. We're going to go with something that's just way over the top, way bigger than what we need for our ore processing. And to do that, we're going to need an absolute ton of brine, because my goal is to build something that, I don't know that it'll keep up with a builder, especially once it's upgraded, but something that can process ores at a very fast rate while also ore quintupling, doing the entire mechanism processing line, but be able to relatively keep up with keep a builder running is the goal. Of course, it's only going to be processing these ores, unless we decide to start silk touching. I guess we might. We'll see. But for right now, what I would like to do is pop over to here. We're going to make up a bunch of thermal evaporation blocks. Like as many as we can possibly muster. And we're going to keep this steel creation running. Keep it making steel for us. Because I imagine we're going to need just endless, boundless amounts of steel today. And I decided that our brine system is actually going to sit right over here, because this is kind of the tech district. And so if we have some big like water towers set up and everything kind of on the edge of this, it'll look pretty good. And I was actually looking at, just online, just on Google, looking at kind of lithium extraction facilities, which is the actual use for brine. I guess it's the primary use for brine. And I was kind of looking at those and just getting some ideas, and there's one that I love where it kind of has the towers behind a building where stuff is processed, and I was like, oh, you know what, we could set up something kind of like that over on this little plateau area. So that's what we're going to do, and we're going to go with a good number of thermal evaporation blocks. So we're going to just go, let's see, let's start, say here, and have like a 2-block boundary, and we'll just go like that, like that, like that. That's going to be a thermal evaporation tower, and we're probably going to be going with like full-size thermal evaporation towers for this, I imagine. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side, just kind of get this started. And I figured this would be a nice little change from, we've been doing a lot of speed build episodes, and this would be a nice little change from that. Yeah, that works perfect. Wow, I couldn't have asked for better spacing. We had set this up a bit back. The road is probably going to change from the silty dirt, but for now this will be fine. So we'll have 4 there, and then we're going to come on out another like block. Okay, so right now we were up to 8 We've got 8 towers set up. That's not enough. We need more. We need more brine towers. So let's get some more steel going here. And remember, this is just the first layer. And I have to build these up. And I guess we're going to go for like max size, I suppose. Because why not? Why not just have huge, massive beast towers sitting back here? Might as well. So let's go with some more. This thing is going to be an absolute power hog to the point that we will probably, once we get this set up, which I don't know that we're going to run all the towers immediately. This might be something that we kind of ease into because Mechanism is a power hog, especially when it comes to ore quintupling. And ore quintupling on this scale, I've never done it on this scale. It's going to be a massive monster. It's probably, I would not suggest it for servers. It's probably not going to be server friendly. It's just going to like chew through power like it was nothing. So we will probably have to push into some nuclear craft, possibly even push into some Mechanism lithium reactor before it's all said and done, I imagine. So there is 12 towers producing brine. Do we want to go bigger? I mean, I could. But the thing is, I'm going to run out of space for the facility if I do that. I'll tell you what, let's add like 2 more. Maybe this will be enough brine tower. If not, I mean, we could always have brine towers ran out along this, like kind of on this little walkway, like extended brine towers. But realistically, I think if we're running these full speed, I think 14 brine towers is going to be enough. Because these things can run extremely fast, be producing an absolute ton of brine. So I have high hopes for it. Wow, we've like ran through like about all that steel just making the first layer of these. Oh, this is horrendous. This is going to be like a ton of materials. It really is. By the time it's all said and done, it's going to be a monster. Okay. So there we go. We got a bunch of brine towers, and then what I'm thinking is we're just going to lay out today, since we have been doing a lot of speed building. We're going to take this episode, and not actually speed build, but we are going to lay out just a rough idea of where our building's going to go. Now, all of these towers will be producing brine, so we'll have 14 towers dedicated exclusively to brine production. And then what we'll do is we'll come out something like this. And this will kind of mark where our facility is going to be that kind of runs around here. So we'll have something to this effect. Bring it out just a little bit. It's not going to be like a super big building. Maybe something like that. I might have the front stick out. You know, once we build it out, so, you know, we might add a few odd and end things there. We'll see. So that's going to be our facility, and then we are going to have the lithium production. I don't feel like I have enough towers. I think I need more towers, actually, if that could be believed. Actually, probably just have this building focused on brine, and then have a separate one for lithium. Because I'm honestly starting to wonder if we might even need more towers than this for our brine. I don't know. It's hard to say since I've never done it at this scale. But I'd rather have too much brine than too little brine. So we may have to make some more towers. But we'll see. We'll kind of play it by ear at this point. Alright, let me get more thermal evaporation blocks. And in here, if we look at mechanism... this right here, okay, it just says see the example. Because I can't remember how tall these can be. Let me search it real quick. Okay, it can be up to 18 tall. Which we're gonna go full size. Yep, it looks good. And then, now the fun begins. Let's just grab our wand and let's begin building these out. Now these will have valves on them, so I'm gonna tear off, you know, a couple pieces once it comes time to put in the valves. Because we'll need a valve for input, a valve for output. We'll also need the controller. So this is going to be very slow going. Like very, very slow going. And I tell you what, for right now, let me pop over. Let me get our Draconic Evolution wand. our crystal binder, because we're going to set up a little bit of automation for this, just to make it a bit easier on us. Okay, so for right now, we're going to set this up. Let me grab a connection. This one has 15 of 16. Yeah, that'll be fine. So let's just come up here. Let's set this like right there. Link it so that it's got power. And then we're going to do our small storage crate. Small storage crate. This one is going to be extracting. This one's going to be inserting. Honestly, I think the speed is fine for this. But I just like to have it automatic so I can do some other stuff while I'm running this. So let's go ahead. Let's say side configuration. This is going to be, we're going to say that you can input from the left and no other sides. This one, we're going to say that you can input from the top and no other sides. So if we dump in, you know, a bunch of coal into this, and we say that you can extract always active, it's going to start feeding in coal. And let me go get just another storage crate. I could do filters, but I've got, storage crates are easy enough, and I'd like to be able to just run a bunch of this. So what we'll do is just set this up right there. So I extract, always active, insert. There we go. And then if we dump in a bunch of iron, it's going to dump that in. It's going to start running and making steel, and that gets withdrawn and dumped into here. And so that way I can just go get a bunch of, let me just dump all this stuff in here for a minute. And let me just go get a bunch of iron and a bunch of coal. I'm also going to grab a bunch of iron ore, because we are going to need a bunch of that as well. And hopefully this building enjoys being used for a little bit, because soon it's not going to be used as much. Or at all, really. Once all this is set up, it won't be used at all. Alright, so let's load this thing down and just start producing a massive amount of steel. Copper's easy, but 4 steel to 4 thermal evaporation blocks, it's going to get a little bit costly, to be sure. And we do have this one. I'm going to leave it because it was our temporary one that we used for a little bit. Oh, that's going to be... Oh, but we can replicate them. I think I've already got them saved in to be replicated, actually. So it's actually not going to be too bad. Because if we couldn't replicate them, that would be pretty bad. Alright, so at this point, I need to just start building these out. Letting that stuff run, make us steel. And I went ahead, I started making up a bunch of enriched alloy to make advanced control circuits. So I do have that running at the moment. And then I'm just going to replicate the basic circuits. And I'm also replicating like a stack of ultimate control circuits. But right now, just still kicking away on these thermal evaporation blocks. And you can see I've got a few towers now fully built out. And also don't forget that the bottoms of these, they do need blocks in them. So I'm going to go ahead and place these out real quick. But just kind of bear in mind that the bottoms do need to be filled in on these. Okay, I'm still kicking away. This is taking forever because my furnaces over at the storage build, or the smith, are just so slow. They're so slow. Won't be an issue for much longer, but we might honestly go with like a ultimate furnace once we get ready to start smelting the stuff. I don't know, or we might just go with mechanism factories. We'll see. But we're going to go ahead and make ourselves just some tanks, because we're going to have to make advanced fluid tanks. Or ultimate fluid tanks, not advanced. But we're going to have to steadily get all these upgraded because we need to make the controllers. And these things, luckily, they don't stack. There we go. And then we've got to make the elite ones and then the ultimate ones. Luckily, I don't hurt for materials. It's just processing speed is what is taking a while at the moment. And then let's go ahead. Let's get a bunch more of that. And the valves, I should be able to craft up a bit of these. There's 18, which I really just need to make more enriched alloy at this point, which takes iron, which is another bottleneck a little bit. But there is 18 thermal evaporation valves. Now altogether we're going to need 28, like bare minimum, 28 of them. And it did just dawn on me, we're going to need another 14 valves because we're going to be pumping heat into this. So we're going to have one for input, one for output for fluids, and then one for heat input. So I did go ahead and make up some more control circuits for that. And then we should be good now to get the last of our tanks. Because I do have the 56 atomic alloy that we're going to need for that. So let's go ahead and get those made out. Once we get the valves and the controllers done, we'll be through the bulk of this, and it'll just be finishing out the towers built, basically, at that point. So there's all of our ultimate fluid tanks. And then we just need some glass panes. That's easy enough. And then we're going to need evaporation blocks. So there we go. There's a handful of those. Alright, so now let's go ahead and get some of these thermal evaporation controllers. And I think we've actually got enough probably to craft out all of these. Just go ahead and get all these tanks out of our inventory. Because I actually need to restock that steel with coal. You know, we added a bunch of coal, but we're already getting low on coal. So there we go. There's 14 of those. And then, that'll get that stuff out of my inventory. And then let's go ahead and get the valves. There's our other 24 valves. So we've got 42 thermal evaporation valves and 14 controllers. So that part's actually done, which is good. And then I don't need any of that stuff anymore. And I'll go ahead and just toss that in. Oh, I'm actually out of coal at the moment. I have 44. Wow, okay. That is actually impressive. I'm amazed. Okay, so now what we can do, let me go sleep real quick, just to get it back to day. And we're going to go ahead and just set up a couple of these. I do believe, let's go ahead and just finish running that all the way up. Okay, and I think what we're going to do is, if we pop down, let's just do this one first. Let's go ahead and pop through that. And I could pretty much just count out 3 blocks in between. And that's going to put me right underneath these. Let me go ahead and just light this up a little bit though. So we can see underneath here. And what we're going to do is we're going to run everything pretty much from the bottom. That way we don't have a bunch of like cords and stuff sticking out over here. Because I don't really want those visible. So we're going to have the valves and everything on the bottom. So we'll go ahead and just open this up, and we'll have like valve, 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 like so. Okay, I got these back 4 set up with their valves. And then what we're going to do is, if we pop up, we can put the controller block pretty much anywhere, realistically. Like we could put it, if we wanted it right there, we could have it there. I'm probably going to, we could have it so that we could walk on top, like with a catwalk. Have that accessible back here maybe. But I don't know. I think maybe just having the controller down here would be good. Because this is big enough, you know, we can walk through it, but it's not excessively large. I think usually in real life, whenever you see those like, those big like tanks, I don't really know the purpose of them, but they're set up, you know, kind of like this. Kind of how a lot of those energy storage places are too. You know, there's not a lot of space that kind of runs between them. So I think we'll keep true to that. And we're going to have just the thermal evaporation controllers be like there. Or actually, for these back ones, we have to put them on an inner side. See, these corner ones are the awkward ones. Let's actually have it be here and here. Here and here. There we go. So we can walk between these and just access their little terminals. And then we'll do, on this one, on these, we'll do, you know, right there. Right there. there, there. Realistically, we won't really be accessing these at all, unless early on we might be checking the heat and stuff, but once we get everything set up, we won't really be accessing these. So we'll have it like that. I think if we did a catwalk up to the top, I mean, we could, realistically, but it would also kind of look a little bit goofy as well. I'm thinking just a big steel fence that kind of comes up, you know, 4 blocks or so around this. Should look pretty good. Now let me go ahead and finish putting out the valves. So we now have all the valves placed and all the controllers. So now it really is just a matter of running these up. Could probably go ahead and set up the water generation. I imagine that wouldn't hurt to go ahead and get that in place. And so what we're going to do, we are going to make ourselves a... Oh, let me go see if this is done replicating. We're going to be setting up a replication station before too long. If you recall, back on our last playthrough of Enigmatica, we had that set up, and I'm going to need a workbench. We had that set up, and it was like, we pretty much had everything in stock all the time for our, you know, anything that was replicated was pretty much always in stock, so we're going to be getting that before long. There's our sequential fabricator. And then I also want to go ahead, let's get a redstone servo. Let's get some glass. And there's our fluidic fabrication augment. And I also want to get pattern validation augment. So there's that. And then we're going to have to get ourselves just a couple upgrade kits just to get it up to rank 2. Speed's not going to be that important for us. I don't know if I have any of these lying around. Yeah, we have conversion kit. So I'm just going to go with a reinforced conversion kit. That'll be fine. And that'll get us to where we need it to be. Okay, now let me grab this out. Let me grab that. And we're going to set it up just right here. Will be fine. So we'll just right click, start giving this some power. Then we're going to hit it with our conversion kit. And then we're going to add in pattern validation and fluidic fabrication. Get ourselves a couple crates. Long term, we will probably set up something a little bit more permanent for this. But it will be with AE2. Will be really the next time that it'll come up. And we'll set something up for it. But what we're going to do, we're going to set a crate there. And over here, we're going to set something up in just a moment. And we're going to put a crate in right here. And we're going to put in item conduits. Just run these out the top so the extract is always active. Insert. And then what we're going to do is the recipe that we're going to put into this is going to be... I don't need this open anymore. It's going to be... Actually, auto input. Let's enable auto input. We do want that on. But we're going to teach you the recipe for infinite water sources. These right here, and set that. And that's going to take 10 ingots, and it's going to take basic plating. And that's really the only thing that's going to require our kind of input here once we get this up and going. So basic plating is lead casings and lead sheet metal. So we're going to need to just make a bunch of lead plates, and we're going to have to smelt up a bunch of coal. I'm not sure where we are on lead. We have a bit of lead. So we'll just take what we've got. I'm going to put some ore over here. It's actually catching up. Ooh. On iron. I'm going to have to actually smelt more iron, in fact. But while that's running, let's pop over to the presses. And at this point, let's just toss all of our lead into there. Get that running. And let me pop back over here. Let me grab just a bunch of iron ore, because I am going to have to get more of that running. Also lead as well, because we're going to need a bit of lead for this also. And then this will just take a little bit of time, but this is something else we can kind of have running in the background. So now we should be all set. I'm also going to need a couple buckets of water to get us started. So we'll go ahead and dump these just directly in for right now. There we go. We had something really similar to this, basically the same thing, more or less set up on compact claustrophobia. I'd set it up off camera, but I just wanted to mention and show off that we are setting this up. And let me go ahead and just get some of these going back through to make us lead casings. It's really going to be, honestly, just waiting on graphite more than anything, because we are going to need a lot of this, but that's okay. We might even look at a faster furnace this episode. Maybe start pushing towards Supremium or Ultimate Furnace. Wouldn't be a bad idea. But let's go ahead and get ourselves some basic plating. And I may actually have some more of this lying around. I'll have to take a look. But then if we throw in like the basic plating, and we throw in tin as well. Let me go get some tin. Then this is going to start crafting. And it's going to craft us out infinite water sources. And it looks like, yeah, we won't be able to pump out right there. But if we rotate this, let's just do that. So if we did it like that and had output out the back, that should work. And then I can throw this stuff back in. There we go. And then what we're going to do is take the very first... I thought it made an infinite... Oh, there it is. I was like, where did it go? What we're going to do is just set this up next to it, and that way it starts producing water, basically to use for the buckets, and then this will get pumped out, fed into here, because we're going to need 8 of these to make a compact infinite water source, and then 8 compact infinite water sources to make a dense infinite water source. But this thing's going to produce over like a bucket and a fourth of water per tick. Which should be sufficient to run at least one of these towers at full speed, possibly more than one. We'll see. So we ran out pretty much all the coal on hand from the builder. So I went and I stole all the blocks of coal from the old coal duplication system before it was fixed that we had created. And I'm filling this back up now. There we go. And I still got a stack of coal blocks left over. Yay. But I don't think we'll actually need that much coal because we don't have that much more left. After this tower's done, we only got 3 towers left to build out. And then we'll be done with evaporation blocks for now, until we get into liquid lithium. Okay, so we got the towers fully built. We got all 14 of those. And then over here, we do have a couple Supremium furnaces. I built these because it was taking a massive amount of time to craft out my graphite, like a lot of time with just a standard, well, it's a external heater furnace, which is a little bit faster than default furnace, but this was a cheap upgrade since we do have tons of this stuff, and we're going to need 2 anyways if we want to make an ultimate furnace down the road, but these are a lot quicker now. So for example, plus they use like barely any coal to burn this stuff. But if we throw that in, you can see it's a lot faster. I mean, my graphite's so much faster this way. If we have an ultimate furnace, of course, it's like 90 times faster than this one. But we'll do this on camera. It takes a little bit more cost to craft that out. So, oh, and don't shift click or you end up filling these stacks. Not a big deal. It's whatever. And then I may need more lead, it looks like. That's fine. I've actually got enough of these to get started with, so we'll just toss those in. If we take a look here, we have a couple stacks of infinite water sources at this point. So we're going to grab these out, and to upgrade these, it is bronze and then gold. Do our first upgrade. There's 16, 19. And these are now producing 160 millibuckets per tick. Now, really, at this point, we're really just compacting these because it's the same production if you have 8 of these or if you have 1 of these, same production. But we're going to do that. We're going to go ahead and compact it. So right now, we have basically like 2.5 buckets per tick being produced, which I don't think that's going to be enough, but I could be wrong. But I don't think it's going to be enough once these are heated up. But I'm going to keep producing these, especially once we get the builder running and I have coal coming in. I'm starting to get a little bit low on coal at the moment, so I don't want to push too hard on the graphite and then be out of coal. Of course, I can just empty out or add another crate and we'll have a bunch more coal. So it may have to do that, but we'll see. But down here, I went ahead and I made 64 of these. There we go. They're not super expensive, of course. We've covered the Xnet stuff. It's a whole lot easier to make them now. I did go ahead and I used the gold method over going with the steel method at the moment, just because I don't have a lot of steel. I don't have a lot of coal. So I just went with the gold method and crafted out 64 of these. And then upgrading them to advanced, of course, is super cheap because we have endless ender pearls, endless redstone, and we basically have endless diamond due to the builder. And then got us a bunch of network cables, a bit more than I anticipated. I laid out, I think it was like 16 of everything, and ended up with that many. But what we're going to do is we're going to leave this one off by itself as the heat insert, and we're going to go ahead and just put advanced connectors. We're going to be using Xnet for our fluid transfer, unless this becomes laggy. We'll see. So what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and just connect all these up with Xnet. These are advanced connectors, and do the same thing on these others. So everything is now connected up. And then we're going to go ahead and just run this. Let's see. I guess we'll have the controller setting over here for this Xnet system. And we'll have it, we're going to say it's going to be setting right here. And this is going to control basically all of our Xnet stuff for this area, which is basically, it's just going to be one big fluid network. And then let me put on a connector on this, on the controller. So advanced connector there, and then we'll just run this down. So there we go. That's connected up, and then over, let's see. We still got to set up our dense infinite water sources. And I'm thinking of having these setting somewhere kind of visible for this room. So we're going to have them setting, say, on this wall here. So we'll start them right here, let's say. Because these things, that way we can kind of see like how many of these we're actually running for over here. Now granted, we are going to be using these for some other stuff aside from just brine, because of course there are fluids where we're going to have to be doing electrolytic separation, so we're going to be using it for that as well. But Xnet is extremely powerful when it comes to transferring fluids around. Extremely powerful. So we're going to be making use of this. And so what we're going to do is we're going to make ourselves some fluid channels. We're going to go ahead and create. We're going to copy this channel, and we're going to just come through and we're going to paste. And we're going to have basically 7 fluid channels. And then this one here, we're going to go ahead and just make an Xnet energy channel so that we do have something that can transfer energy within our system. And then what we're going to do is on all of these, we are going to have an insert line. So let's go ahead and create that. This is going to be insert. I don't know if I want to name these. Yeah, let's name these, actually. It'll make it a little bit easier. Now, using advanced connectors, you could only use one valve, because an advanced connector could insert and extract through the same valve. That's not a problem. But we're going to be using separate ones, and that's due to just making it faster. Just having some insane speed going. Luckily, Xnet is super optimized. Like, if we were going with mechanism wiring, I would be a little bit more fearful. Or even Ender IO wiring, I would be a little bit more fearful. But with Xnet, it is very optimized, but at the same time, we are going to be moving a lot of fluids. A lot of water and a lot of brine is going to be moving around in this. So, okay, all those are named. Let me double check. I don't think you can do a mechanism heat line. There's mechanism gas. Yeah, let's go ahead and make a mechanism gas line just to be on the safe side, because I think we will actually need that, truth be told. And that way we don't have to have mechanism wires running around. So we're going to say you insert, and we're going to put in a filter. Let me just get a bucket of water. And we're going to put a filter in, and we're going to say you're going to insert water buckets. And the rate, we need to set this because otherwise it is going to default. I think it defaults to 1,000 or 2,000 millibuckets. We want 5,000. We don't want to max. Don't care about priority. Just this right here, and we're gonna leave it on the downside. It doesn't. These aren't the valves aren't really side specific, so it doesn't really matter in the case of this. So we're gonna leave it on downside, and then we're going to copy this connector, and then we're just gonna go through and paste on all the insert ones, which I think 6 lines probably gonna be enough. This is another inline, because I think it runs on the back axis, so I think we'll have maybe 4 of these. Okay, and then we have some outs, and then we go back to ends. So I'm just going to go through and paste all this. And the reason we're doing multiple channels is because each channel will be able to do 5,000 millibuckets, and that's about every second, I think it is. But if we have, say, 6 channels all pumping in, then we're going to be looking at 30,000 millibuckets every second that can be moved. Now, realistically, this is probably overkill. I'll be perfectly honest. I don't think we're going to be running at a point where we need 30,000 millibuckets every second. Oh, and something I just realized, you can do Control V. That's really nifty. I just trying it because I was like, oh, I wonder if that works. You can do Control V to paste your stuff. That's really, really nifty. Okay, so now we have all of our inserts done, and now we're going to do the extract. So we're going to create, and we're going to say this is going to be an extract line. The rate 5,000 millibuckets. Minimum, we're not going to set anything for that. The extraction rate, we could set this down to every 10 ticks. I'm going to leave this as 20 ticks because I think the insert's going to default as that. And brine is actually, it's produced, we're going to need a lot of water moving, but brine is, it takes 10 millibuckets of water to make 1 millibucket of brine. So realistically, I don't think we're going to be moving that much brine. I might even turn that down to 40 ticks or something like that. We'll see. And I just want a bucket of this just to set up a filter is all. So let me just set that up. And that chlorine little system over there, we'll never use it again because what we're going to be setting up today, we'll be producing chlorine before too long. So we're going to go ahead and just set a filter just to make sure we've always got brine. Copy it, and then just go through and paste. Especially knowing that Control V works on this, it just makes my life so much easier. And then we're going to set up another extraction line. This one is going to need to probably run, 20. Let's do 10. Yeah, 10 ticks, 5,000 millibuckets. We don't really need a filter because it's only going to be water. So we're going to go through and just set this up. This one will need to run quick because these things are producing, over a bucket every tick. Of course, 20 ticks in a second. So we're actually going to be producing 10 buckets. Oh, but we actually have the 6 lines. Yeah, actually, it's 20 ticks. It might be fast enough. Well, I'm going to leave it like that. That's good. So we'll have all of this going on. Just big fluid control here. Okay, so now, this won't be moving right now because we don't have power going to this controller. So we're going to pop over. We'll get a flux point. And we're going to plug this up right there. And we're going to say to Asgard's network. This now has power, and we should now see, if we take a look here. Okay, I was doing some testing. Fluid conduits and stuff will not connect to the bottom of this. I'm wondering if, let me change it to the north side, let's say. Otherwise, I may have to actually put these on the upper sides. Okay. Yeah, it's looking like I might have to do that because it is not. At first, I thought, well, maybe it was because Mechanism had an issue before when it was connected up to Xnet, but I knew they fixed that. But I was thinking that the valves could be on the bottom, but I'm guessing that they can't. I could have swore they used to be able to be. So in that case, I'm gonna have to change this out a little bit, which is unfortunate. But what we'll do is just run the valves. We'll have the fluid valves there, and then I'll run the heat valves in just a minute. Okay, and then we run it out like that. Then if I pop over and I set this as, find them here. This is in, so we're just going to copy this connection, and then we're going to copy these connections. Now if we take a look inside of this, we do have water and we're producing brine. Okay, we're actually producing pretty good without even having any heat, as you can tell. It does seem to produce pretty quick, but we're going to need faster, so we are going to feed in heat. But that is working. And then the heat valves, I may just run up and have them up on the side, so we'll kind of have some cables climbing up it. I'm not sure. Give me just a second. I'm going to get all this stuff rearranged and get our connectors replugged back in real quick. The correct placement. I got these fixed, and if we take a look, I wonder if that's a visual bug or if it's actually... it's steadily building up. See, I think we need more water production because this isn't even really running and it's taking a while for the buffer to fill up. But we're going to continue at this point getting more of these built and in place. You can see it is keeping these emptied out, which is good. And it's steadily filling up these towers. But once these actually start running like full throttle with heat, I don't know. It's going to take a lot of water. Like a whole lot of water. At the moment, I was debating on if I wanted to go ahead and set up the heat generation. I'm going to wait because right now we don't need the heat generation because it would just be a waste of power, a waste of fuel. And we have 14 tanks producing brine. So 14 tanks, even without heat, it's probably going to be pretty good brine production due to the biome that we're in, which is mostly river, which is actually kind of warm, and a little bit of plains. Seems like it's taking, there we go. It's taking a little while to update it. But I think right over on this little end is plains. But most of this is river, which is actually a decently warm. It's not as hot as a desert, but it's decently warm. So I'm going to wait to do the heat production because right now it would just be wasteful to set it up. And we'll set that up after we set up everything else. So I know it's getting about wrapping up point. We didn't get it. I was hoping to go ahead and start doing the fluids this episode, but this actually took a while and... we covered kind of what we were setting up on camera for this, so just to make it a little bit easier for us. But at this point, the bulk of, kind of a big bulk of our just resource dump is out of the way. Now, between episodes, I am going to prep up electrolytic separators. These aren't expensive for us. We have lots of osmium, gold, and iron, and I'm just going to crush it, but not smelt it. And then enriched alloy, not too bad. Now that we're not producing a bunch of steel. And redstone I honestly need to use because I'm up to my neck in the stuff. So, I'm going to get a few of these made up, as well as, because these of course are going to be used to take the brine, turn it into sodium, and turn it into chlorine. The sodium we are going to be holding on to for salt mixing. Honestly, probably here soon, we're probably going to go ahead and fight a Gaia, so we can get a Gaia spirit to make a black hole talisman, to make a black hole fluid unit to store that sodium for the time being, and then just void excess after the fact. But these electrolytic separators, we're mostly after the chlorine at the moment, and then we're also going to be breaking down water, and then later on we'll be breaking down heavy water for the deuterium. So we're going to go ahead and at least set up these two come next episode, but we will save space for the heavy water to be done in here because this is kind of like all-purpose brine and water treatment facility. And then we need infused diamonds. How do we get dimensional shard or void miners? Tier 5 or 6, lasers, and other planets. Oh no. No. I mean, we could go with the laser. So we may have to set up that come next episode. Since we haven't been into space just yet, it looks like we're probably going to have to use a laser system to mine that up. But it's actually not bad to make this. We might set up a couple of them and get it going, but this is actually really, really cheap. Yeah, so we might... Yeah, we might work on that next episode as well, and start getting some of our fluids set up and setting up our sulfur production. It's going to be a big process. This is a huge undertaking, so I'm expecting it to take a few episodes. Plus, we have some speed building to do related to it. But yeah, so that'll be the plan come next episode, is just kind of pushing in, digging a bit deeper into this. And I'm going to get some machines prepped up between episodes, what I can. and then we'll have to do the laser drill, looks like. So that'll be the plan come next episode. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, as always, be sure and hit that like button and go ahead and subscribe if you're not already to stay updated with when new videos come out. Like I said, I'd hoped we would get a little bit further, but we did have to set up for steel. We had to set up for water, infinite water sources, run the Xnet, set up the towers, and all that fun stuff. But the rest of it should be pretty quick because it's mainly just setting up machines. Dimensional shards being, I think, probably the only issue that we should run into. But anyways, I hope to see you guys next time. Until then, as always, do take care, stay safe. I'll see you guys then.